Sounds good. Yeah. Yep. It sounded okay. It still sounded okay after you talked before. So I don't, I just don't know if it was static or what. Sounds okay. I'm good, tired, but good. Yeah. So, and then one of my friends reached out. He just moved to a new apartment and was like, "Do you want to come hang out?" So I'm like, "Yes, I needed some social interaction." So ended up going out on Friday night. I was very drained the next day. So I had to sleep very deeply today. Yeah, at least, but I don't have to go to work until 3, so I can be with the dogs for a while and all that good stuff. It says we have a viewer in each. I don't see anybody chatting right now. Yep. Yeah. Sounds good. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Center for Conscious Living and our weekly wisdom and conscious conversation. You have Spencer and Renee today. Lori's having some technical difficulties and is going to try to join us. So that's a kind of fluid situation right now. So you have both of us for the time being. This week we are focusing on part 2 of our monthly series, which is, I gotta scroll down to my notes here. So our monthly series is the energy of boundaries, and this is part 2, which is the carrying out of your boundary embodiment. Before we get into that, though, just a brief overview. If you're not familiar with our organization, Spiritual Center for Conscious Living, we are a 501c3 nonprofit, which is dedicated to education and learning from spiritual teachers from a variety of backgrounds and how to live your best conscious life. Everything we offer is free, practical tips on how to do this, and we offer conversation where we talk about how it affects and impacts our lives. You have Lori and myself who've been practicing this for a number of years, Renee, who has been doing it for ever as well, as long as she's existed. And yeah, so it's a great time. As I said, this is all free of charge. We do, being a 501c3, ask if you are able to donate. You can do so via PayPal, links which are found in our descriptions on the respective video. You can even contribute to us by joining the conversation. Leave comments, questions, anything in the chat. I am monitoring that as we go along. So if you leave a comment, I will try my best to work it into our conversation and, add another talking point. So please feel free to do that. You can also check out our website, SCfCL.org. Again, all those links are in the description. So please go ahead and check that out. I think that's all we have to announce today, Renee. So I think we're ready for you.
Thank you. I was texting with Lori, so apologies for being a little distracted. Welcome, everybody. Lori's trying to, she's having some technology. She's traveling, so having little tech issues trying to get on. So she may just be in the audience. She may just join us in the audience, or I may just call her on the phone and let her be on a speakerphone with us from this end. We'll see if that works. So while she's getting that worked out, I do want to go ahead and get started. Here's what we're talking about today. As Spencer said, we're in the second part of the monthly series about the energy of boundaries. So each time we talk about it, it can trigger things because boundaries cause a lot of confusion. Honestly, it's the misunderstanding around boundaries that creates most conflict between human beings. Our spiritual selves, no, they understand it. Your spiritual self, the divine, what I call your divine self, the part of you that is aligned with the divine, that is that connecting point of light, understands boundaries. It doesn't have to have boundaries because your divine self, your sacred self, your spirit being, the spiritual aspect of you, is aligned with the divine, and that is the boundary. That's it. It is the energy of a high frequency, of a high vibration that you hold, that you maintain. And then as you go through your day as a blended being, human and spirit blended, you're making choices from the divine self. If you're doing that, when you're doing that, then that is your boundary. You don't have to enforce the boundary because you are being the energy, and that's the boundary. Now, we talked a lot about that last week. If you haven't listened to the first part, that is the core, as I called it. It's the core of the boundary. It's the beingness. So that's really important. So please, if you're with us live or you're watching the replay, please be sure you listen to the part one. If you want to pause this one, if you're on a replay later and go back and then come back, however you want to do it, but please do make sure that you hear part one. It is very important to get the core foundation in place, the beingness, okay? Now, today we're going to talk about a part that's going to potentially trigger you a little bit, okay? And I just want you to kind of open your heart, still your mind, and allow that to be. I'm listening. I'm trying to help Lori get on, so give me 1 second. Didn't hear it yet. Okay, I don't know. I'll just maybe she can reach out to you, Spencer, too. You can help her. Okay, thank you. So the reason I say that it potentially could be triggering, and if you're not familiar with that term, triggering means you might have the sense of like kind of, some people would say it's a charge, like you have this feeling of what that can't be, or it creates some sort of strong emotion, a sense of anger or a sense of overwhelm or maybe sadness even. So it could trigger some strong emotion that is ready for you to process and release. Hold on 1 second. So Lori's on YouTube with us. Hi, Lori. Welcome. Thank you for being in the audience. Even though you can't be with us, we'll get you involved later, hopefully, but we'll see if we can work that out. Okay, we're glad you're there. So as I was saying, the trigger is emotion that is ready to be processed so that the restriction of that unprocessed emotion can be released, which then frees you to be more truly, more purely your whole self, the blended being, your whole self, the divine self leading the way, and the human self then in co-creation mode, having a beautiful experience on planet Earth. And when I say a beautiful experience, I don't mean there won't be anything that comes up that you manage and adjust so you can evolve and expand. But I'm saying it's not going to be constant chaos, constant drama, okay? Because that's exhausting and depleting on your energy. And it's not what we are here for. It's not, it's so much below, not in a condemning way, but it's not the high vibe frequency experience we are capable of. And that's why we strive to learn more how to be that and how to do that. So let's talk about the embodiment. So today it is, as Spencer said, the carrying out your boundary, which means you have to embody it, the embodiment of a boundary. Well, in case you're not familiar with the term embodiment, or maybe you're familiar with it, but let's just make sure we all really understand what that means. Embodiment, means, my kitty's talking to me. Hi, baby. Embodiment means that you are being the boundary you want others to respect, okay? In your human interaction, you are being the boundary that you want others to mirror. People will not mirror a boundary you don't actually have as an energy experience. Then you carry it out in your actions naturally. It will naturally emanate from you in your energy field, which will also then influence how others treat you. So you have influence. Hey, Murray, my kitty is really wanting my attention. So what is important to know about that is and I want you to really just kind of center as I say this, feel into your heart, still your mind, okay, and hear this. Are you asking other people to be the energy of a boundary that you have not cultivated for yourself as your energy? Are you putting the responsibility and the burden of your boundaries on other people? Because you're not either you don't know how to cultivate the boundary as the energy first, or you're afraid to. And so when I say afraid to, it could be absolute fear, or it could be just a little bit of trepidation or anxiety. And another element could be you don't actually believe you're worthy of it. You want to be worthy of it, so you give voice to it, you claim it. How many times do we hear people say, I spoke my truth, and they did it in this defiant way. I spoke my truth. That's what I'm talking about as a trigger. So in our conversation last week, Spencer and Lori both shared examples of something they had experienced, and it's in the second part of last week's recording replay. So, and each of them shared an experience where something happened in a business related conversation, and they had at some point along the way, I think one person, it was like with Lori, I think it was kind of immediate, and then with Spencer it was like a little bit later, this trigger of, wait a minute, no, and so each of them found their way to process it. Sometimes you're going to not manage your boundary perfectly, okay? A lot of times, okay, but try. But when I say try, do your best. Energy first, energy first, energy first. And in case you didn't get that, one more time, because it's so important, energy first. You cannot hold or enforce or set a boundary with words and actions that are not grounded in your energy. You see, you have to have the energy first. And without doing that, to be honest, you're not loving yourself and honoring yourself with sacredness. Okay, now that's a big one. Take a breath. That's a big one. If you don't love yourself enough to cultivate the energy that you want to experience in life as you begin your day and moment to moment as you go through your day, which is what we're going to discuss next week. If you don't love yourself, sacred self-love, sacred honor for yourself, and prioritize experiencing a life that is of your choosing, of love and joy and peace and prosperity and well-being in every facet of life. The space to express yourself, your creativity, your ideas, to have be able to use your energy in creation for things that you value, for things that align with your values. If you don't love yourself enough to create the energy of the experience you want to live, what right do you have to demand other people do that for you? We have a right to require and enforce by our choices and behaviors that we want other people to treat us well. Absolutely. It starts with you treating yourself well. You having sacred self-love, which is different from this grandiose love that we see a lot in media, social media, and just out in the world. We see that a lot. And I think because we have those of us who are in conversations like this where, we have an intention to be a spiritually grounded, a spiritually loving person, we get confused and we are so afraid we're going to be that we don't learn to cultivate that difference. And that's why we have this organization to help learn things like that so we can live that way. Hi, baby, come on. He just wants to be in my lap really bad. So here's what I want to help you do today. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to do this in our energy activation after a few more minutes. So I want you to bring to mind, we did this last week. You can bring to mind the same situation, or you might have a new situation that you want to bring to mind. Come on, baby. You can bring to mind, let me get my kitty. Come here, baby. Oh, honey, what's the matter? He wants to be part of this today. Okay. So you can bring to mind, if you would like to, the same situation from last week, or perhaps there's something new that has come up. And it's very possible that that would be true. He's going to step on the computer. Hey, baby, I love you. Put you down. There you go. So and I think that's great. If something new has come up, I would like you to embrace that as something that is being brought to your awareness so that you may now choose a higher response, choose a higher level of sacred self-love, and learn to hold a more consistent, steady, baby, you have to stop, a more consistent, steady sense of worthiness, divine worthiness. When I say divine worthiness, I mean knowing that as the truth of your being, that you are divinely loved and cared for, and that makes you innately worthy in the eyes of the divine. And that the divine is going to support you to know that and feel that so that you can be that in all that you do and live from that in all you choose, in how you create your life experiences. All right, so here's what I want to ask you. Do you embody beingness? We talked about it last week, how to choose an energy and then be it. And that is your boundary. And we go deeper in it, but that was the summation of it. Do you embody beingness for you, about you? Or do you find yourself doing that in order to get other people to treat you differently? Because one is empowered. When you embody beingness for you, about you, that's an empowered choice. That's a high vibrational, conscious creation choice. When you embody an energy and you choose that as your beingness to cause other people to be different, now you're starting to try to control them and call that a boundary. You will influence them. And there are times when we talked about last week, don't stand in the face of danger. If violence is erupting around you, remove yourself. If somebody is in your face in some way, stand your ground and leave also. Get yourself to safety. And then work on the energy that was not there after you get yourself to safety, okay? But do get yourself to safety first. Don't stay in harm's way because you're trying to be a spiritually evolved person. Don't do that to yourself. Continue to be a spiritually evolved person and also be wise in the ways of the world, as the human self needs to be kept safe and kept in an environment that's not toxic, that's not abusive, that's not degrading, that's not depleting. Okay, so I have another question for you. When you want a new experience, which is why we create boundaries, right? I want a new experience. So think about the boundary that I just asked you to consider. So you're wanting to create a new experience. Is your attempt to do that by changing your energy first, or is your attempt to do that by telling other people to behave differently? It's not wrong that you want them to behave differently in your energy, in your environment, in your space. But the way that happens is you first align your energy. Because if you're not willing to do the work for yourself to be an evolved, empowered person, it's not possible, and it's not spiritually, it violates spiritual principle and law that to expect them, because you're asking them to be the creator of your experience, and they are the creator of their experience, and you are the creator of your experience, co-creating with the divine as your divine self. If you continually expect other people to change for your life to be better, number one, you're not an empowered person co-creating your experiences with high vibrational awareness and conscious choice from clear intentions that align with your values. Number two, you're asking of others something that's impossible to achieve. You might need to stop choosing and ask yourself, why do you keep choosing to be with people who are difficult in some way? So this is the analogy I think of when I experience something like that. Think about choosing somebody to dance with, okay? Because energy is actually, it's fluid, it's flowing. Boundaries are energy flowing back and forth between an individual and another individual, or an individual and a group of people, or an individual and an organization, an entity. So if you're wanting to have that energy dance, do you choose somebody who will be enjoyable to dance with? Or do you find yourself choosing people that are always challenging to dance with because they're either not conscious or don't want to be conscious, or maybe they say they are, but they don't ever actually carry it out? So ask yourself, why are you choosing dance partners that step on your foot, that when they dip you, they drop you on your behind, or when they spin you, they don't hold on and you go spinning across the room and fall down and hurt yourself? Why are you choosing dance partners that are not enjoyable to dance with? Another thing you might be choosing is a dance partner who's like a wet noodle. They just they're not really involved in the dance with you. And you're like carrying around this little wet noodle, going out trying to have fun with this sort of wet noodle. Wouldn't it be more fun to go with somebody who's like, yeah, let's go do this and let's have some fun and respect each other's boundaries and allow each other to express freely and create and be alive in the unique way that you are divinely designed to be, each of you, and enjoy that and learn that about one another and allow those unique gifts and skills to support one another in mutual shared enjoyment. Okay. All right. So let me see if there's anything I also want to talk about. Okay, let's go ahead and do our energy activation. We're going to focus on how to make sure you're in your heart and feeling the energy so that you can embody it as you choose actions and words. And before you choose actions and words. Okay, we're going to practice that. Okay, I know Spencer's got some music for us, so let's just take a deep breath. Oh. Another deep breath and hold for 3 seconds. And exhale 3 seconds. And pause 3 seconds. And now a very slow, gentle breath. And a slow, gentle exhale. And now I want you to bring to mind a boundary that you choose to hold with higher energy, higher frequency, higher vibrational energy. You want to hold this with sacred self-love. As the conversation we had last week, we discussed how reacting before you align in sacred self-love then causes a sharper response, maybe a disproportionate response than what you really ideally want to be able to do. You want to be able to be grounded and calm and speak with strength and serenity, both. But not force, empowerment. There are extreme situations in the world that we have to step up and protect one another. What we're talking about here is your everyday life, which hopefully does not include that. And if it does, again, please get yourself to safety and then work on boundaries in the way we're discussing. So bring to mind this boundary. The energy of it. Is it peacefulness? Are you wanting in some dynamic you share with another person or a group of people? It could be in your home, it could be in your work, it could be in a volunteer capacity, it could be just out and about running errands, just being part of the world in your daily life. Is there some aspect of you that you feel you're not capable of holding the energy that you would like to hold as your way of being in the world, the boundary of you, the beingness of you in the world? It might be regarding finances, it might be something that's about your health, or it could be strictly relationships with other people. Now that you have that in mind, I want to ask you to lay it down, lovingly hold it in your hand, just lovingly lay it in your hand. See it as an orb of light. Choose a color for it. If you're not sure what to choose, then I suggest the energy of peacefulness and the color of violet. You may choose whatever feels true for you and ideal for you in this moment, this experience. Now I want you to drop into your heart space and ask, Do I have sacred self-love in equal measure to my desire to experience peacefulness or whatever other energy you're choosing? Does my sacred self-love, is it as high in frequency, as steady and consistent in the energy I'm able to hold with sacred self-love for me, about me? Is that in alignment with the degree of peacefulness I desire? Is my desire for peacefulness really, really high, but my ability to hold sacred self-love really low? So they're disproportionate. They're not aligned. Just feel into that. Let's take a breath and feel into that. Am I able to hold sacred self-love in equal measure of frequency, high vibrational frequency, and pure focus and flow of my energy to the same degree that I desire the energy of peacefulness or whatever energy you choose? Is it equal? Is it disproportionate? Just let yourself be aware. If it's disproportionate, how does that feel to you? Does it feel scary? Does it feel sad? Does it feel confusing? Does it feel overwhelming? Just be with that feeling. Just be with it. Don't try to repress it and don't try to resolve it. Just be with it for a moment. It won't hurt you. It's a feeling. Let it wash over you and through you. Let it be. Just let it be and let yourself be with it. Hold yourself in sacred self-love as you feel that feeling. The sadness, the confusion, the anger, the fear, whatever it is. Take a breath, please. Oh. And now release that feeling, the sadness or the anger or the confusion. Release it. Let it be like little bubbles just going up in the air, floating away like little butterflies. Just let it go now. It was only there for you to feel it and acknowledge it because it was a gift of awareness for you. And so now let's raise your ability to hold sacred self-love for you, about you, one with the divine's love for you, aware and trusting of the love of the divine for you, as you, with you, in you, all around you. Open your heart to receive greater awareness and deeper trust in the love of the divine for you, sacred self-love. Just breathe it in. Breathe in the love and breathe out any resistance, any trepidation. Breathe it in. Release anything that is less than sacred self-love. Breathe in the love of the divine for you, as you, with you. Release anything less than that, anything in the way of that, any resistance, any constriction. Breathe it in again, please. Hold that energy, feel it, let it rise, let it expand, outward, inward, upward. Oh, and now release again with a deep breath. One more deep breath in. Exhale with sound. Oh, reverberating all through your body, through your vagus nerve. One more time. Exhale with sound. Oh. And now, while you are coming back to join us for the second part, our conscious conversation, take another deep breath and exhale all through your body, letting your fingers move, your toes move, shake your legs, your arms, move your torso. So you're grounded, really feel into your lower chakras, your root chakra, all through your legs, all through your ankles and feet into the earth. Now take another deep breath and open your heart and your mind, your third eye, your crown, your voice chakra, your throat. Yeah. Open, expansive, coming back, being present as you are ready. Take a moment, take a breath, and let me see. I think somebody's trying to reach me again. Here we go. Okay, let's see. Okay. So we're not sure if Lori is able to participate, but we are going to go ahead and start. Spencer, can you let us know? Is Lori able to join us?
I think she has not been able to join us, so I'm going to guess that she's not going to be able to.
Okay. All right then. So we welcome anyone to join us by way of commenting on Facebook or YouTube. And even if you're watching the replay, please, we welcome your comments. If you have a question and you want to put that out, we will address it. If you want to share with us anything about your experience during the energy activation and meditation we just did, we welcome that. If you need more help with these, you may reach out to us off live stream. You can go to our website, SCfCL.org. I believe Spencer has that in our comment and the descriptions on both YouTube and Facebook. And you'll see a place to reach out for email support or to make a phone appointment if you want a little more personalized one-on-one support. We offer that for you. You can also just make comments and we'll address them there too. I want to make an invitation that while you're coming back and getting grounded and maybe getting your thoughts together for comments, I want to ask that you be aware that we value your participation in our community. That can look like your presence as it is here. It can also look like sharing and liking the video, the live stream, or the replay. It can also be commenting. It can be also, we are, as Spencer said, a 501c3. So please feel free to make a contribution before the live stream's over or even after the live stream. We appreciate that as well. I think that those are up and available. And when we close, we'll bless all the exchange of energy. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to come back and be grounded. I was giving Spencer a chance to because I know he's managing some technology. So here's the question I want to put out for conversation today. So I'm just going to start with Spencer, but I ask everybody else to consider this and answer if you like, but if you don't answer out loud, quote, in comments to us, do answer to yourself. It's important that you be honest with yourself about this. So where do you find yourself confusing an attempt to create with the energy of beingness, confusing creation with controlling other people's energy? So where do you find yourself confusing creation through your own energy versus trying to control anybody else's energy in order to stop them from doing something that doesn't feel good? Not that it's wrong. I mean, we're not suggesting you tolerate things that don't feel good. That's not what we're saying. But it's important to get the difference and learn when you're doing one versus the other. So, Spencer, do you want anything about that you want to share?
I think that sounds like, the
Lori.
past few weeks we've brought brought on a bunch of other people.
Hold on.
Um, and yeah, we brought on a bunch of other people, and I was kind of frustrated with their quality of work and ability to adhere to assigned tasks. And I, it's like they weren't living up to my expectation or standard, and I would end up having to clean up after them. So it was like, it was very frustrating, and I was always trying to control that situation, but I wasn't given the authority in that work structure from my management team to do so. Like, they didn't tell me or tell that person, hey, you need to do whatever he says. You need to work like, they were kind of just allowing the people to be that way. So I guess I had to really work on, I was trying to control that situation, and then really it's just ending up frustrating me, making my work experience terrible. So I had to, or I shouldn't say I had to, I chose to lay that down and be like, what, management is okay with their work ethic. I am not okay with that. I will not allow that for my assignments. So I've just, and it's still a work in progress, because even, a day when I was working recently, they were it's just the same old thing. They just get distracted and they go on. They don't stay at their assignments, and then their assignments are terrible. And I'm like, you know what? Management's okay with it. If they wanted to fix something, they would. I've brought it to their attention. That's all I can do. Except be myself and keep my stuff um, running the way I want it to. So that's really been something that I've
Yeah,
been working on.
that's really cool that you, I mean, not cool that you experienced it, but it's cool because it's such an average thing that it seems like small, but it's irritating. It's like an average thing that people experience all the time, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's, one of those things that then I was letting that person's work ethic define them as a person in my mind, and like that's where it was bad. It's like, well, I like when I'm sitting on the break room and talking with this person. I like when we're walking in or out, and we're having a chat together, but I don't like the way they work all the time.
Oh, that
So
is so good. Yeah.
so it came to me like, I don't want to be mad at this person every time I'm here, because that's the majority of the time we're together is when we're working. So it's like I want to be able to enjoy this person's presence and know that this is just their work style, we'll call it their work style. It's not the same as mine. They have their assignments. I am not responsible for their assignments. And
Oh.
they can, you know, that's between them and management. And part of it, honestly, is I don't get paid enough to worry about other people. So, like,
It helps put it in perspective,
it's like,
doesn't
I don't get paid enough
it?
to worry
Yeah.
about it. If they came and asked me to do that, I would, but I
Yeah.
wasn't asked or given that authority. So why, it came down to, why are you stressing out about this? Why have you made this your burden when it's not? So that was kind of my glimpse of really just controlling. I'm trying to control the situation for what I thought was better, but it was just driving me crazy. It wasn't doing anything for anybody, just driving me crazy. So
Oh, that's really cool. So there's two things I want to circle back to,
yeah.
okay, that you said that I think are really wise and also, um, I would say enlightening if we will really stop and take it in. And before I do that, I want to say, Lori, are you able to hear us?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, good. Well, then when it's after we wrap up with Spencer, we'll pass the baton, so to speak, or the mic to you. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. So Spencer, what's the answer to that? Why were you trying to control that? What did that reveal to you about you?
Um, well, I think it's just that I know that I want to be in a position where, not that I'm controlling people, but where I can lead. I want to be in a
Leadership.
position
Yeah.
where I can lead. And because I do, it really answered that for me, that I know that I do have my head on my shoulders enough to run something, to be a leader, an inspiring leader. So I think that was what it was. I was just frustrated, like, why doesn't this person see me as the golden standard of work? Why doesn't this person see me that way and want to emulate that?
Right.
So I
Which
think
is
that,
very revealing. I mean, I think that's great because that was letting you see there was some resentment building because you weren't honoring something that mattered to you about you.
right, right. So I've really been able to recognize that I do have those leadership skills that I've called into doubt so many times. Um, Despite the fact that maybe this person wasn't a part of it, but I also, again, had to recognize that I wasn't in a position of authority according to the company that I'm working for. So, um,
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so if I may, I'd like to ask you one more
yeah,
question about what you said. So I think I think it's amazing. And I just love that you caught yourself going, wait a minute, I'm trying to control this person. And out of this particular situation, I really like this person. And I don't want to let this issue keep me from enjoying the presence of this person, their divine presence, in another setting, because they're making a choice, which you, as you said, a work style, which is what I broadly always talk about as a lifestyle choice. So they had a lifestyle choice of some sort of less order than you had. It could be chaos, it could be drama, or it could just be disorder, right? They have a lifestyle choice in their work environment of a different degree of order than what you choose, calm and order, right? And they have the right to choose that. Is, of course, you came to that conclusion. They have the right to choose that. But until we own that as a choice we have and honor it, as you did as leadership, if we don't honor it about ourselves, we can't also honor it in the other person. Right. And
right,
so we end up projecting it on the other person. So once you honored that about yourself, it was easier. I think if I'm understanding you, then it became easier to let it go and enjoy the person again and accept that choice.
right. Yeah, and that's a good point too. I never even thought of it that way.
Okay. Well, cool. Is
But
that
yeah,
it? Is that how it felt? I'm not trying to put words in your
yeah,
mouth.
no, no, it does. Like, yeah, not honoring that part of me was getting me to project it and be like, well, I have to prove it. I have to prove it. You know, like I have to
Gosh.
prove that I'm a good leader. I have to prove that I can train somebody up to be, in my mind, as good, or my vision as good as I am, as much as a hard worker as I am. And this person is a hard worker, but for whatever reason, they choose to not stay at their focused assigned tasks. Like they choose to, it's kind of funny. They'll get assigned something they don't like to do. They'll do it very, they'll do it for 15 minutes. And then next thing I know, they're doing all of my work. And I'm like, and then what had happened in the past is I would end up doing their work because I'm like, they're not doing enough. They're not doing enough. And I'm like, why am I doing the crap job when I got my own stuff to do, you know? So I just learned, like, I'm just going to keep doing my stuff. And if somebody needs something fixed, they can talk to whoever's assigned in that department. That's not my department. I'm doing mine. The fact that he's helping me is a bonus.
I like that. And isn't it cool how you realized that you were trying to prove something externally rather than knowing it and being it
Mm-hmm.
within yourself? So that is what sacred self-love is all about. When you had sacred self-love, meaning in this situation, you owned your leadership ability calmly, with honor, sacred honor, not egotistically. You just owned it calmly. It was your part of your beingness. Then your sacred self-love was an equal measure to your behavior, your boundary. Instead, the other way, you were trying to use the boundary to have a sense of sacred self-love and a sense of honoring your leadership, proving it, right?
Yep.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how that gets all tangled up? But it really is, really, it's at the core of most every energy dynamic that creates conflict between human beings.
Right.
That's really cool. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Lori, do you want me to repeat the question, or were you here to hear the question? Were you?
Yeah,
with us?
repeat the question. I think I have a general gist, but I don't want to
Okay.
not get it.
Yeah. So my question was, where in your life do you find yourself confusing creation of your own energy as controlling other people's energy? Where do you find, like just Spencer was just saying, thinking, controlling somebody else's quote energy through boundaries about their behavior would create the experience he wanted. And he realized, wait a minute, I need to create the energy and be it, and let this other person be who they choose to be, and then make choices based on who they're choosing to be.
Gotcha. Okay, that I did pick it up then.
Okay.
For me, it's twofold. It's one, with my employment, I've kind of gotten into a golden handcuffs type situation in working, where right now it's the energy is just chaos at work, and every time I feel like we're really striving to flatten out that chaos, and really there's 4 really core key people that I work with that are very like-minded, and we do grounding exercises. One of them leads meditation 3 days a week for the entire company they can dial into. And
that's nice.
As much as we focus on that, we've gone through multiple reorgs and have to kind of start over. And I was looking at that the other day thinking, okay, what is my particular energy participation in this event?
Oh, good question. Good self-inquiry.
Yeah. And I do think it's that old paradigm of, when you get to a certain point in corporate America, and you're gainfully employed to a point where your salary is such, and you're in this leadership role and making decisions that not only affect you here locally, but abroad. We work internationally. That it's supposed to be super stressful. It's this high stress job. That's the way it's always been depicted everywhere you see.
Right. It's almost like in our culture, it's almost like a badge of honor to be stressed, as opposed to a badge of honor to be peaceful.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, over the last 2 to 3 years, we're really, as part of a corporate culture, getting into the diversity, inclusion, and really taking a look at people as a whole and what's going on outside affecting us and our jobs. It didn't happen this way overnight.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to correct itself overnight, but it could correct itself quicker.
Yes.
If we put the energy towards it in the right way.
And it can correct itself not even overnight, immediately for you with your energy.
Yeah. And so, just the other day,
like what Spencer just described, that was pretty much instantaneous. Yeah.
Right. I found myself getting frustrated with another schedule change and another priority change, and I was just meeting hopping. And this particular day, if I have 2 hours of every 15 minutes, I'm context switching to different projects, and it's become very unsuited to my calmness.
Yeah.
And I just happened to mention it to someone else. I said, this isn't sane. Why are we doing this?
Yeah.
oh, we've got to get this done. It's the end of the quarter, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, what if we didn't? What's going to happen? And we sparked that conversation with the larger group. And I'm like, you know what? That's a great question.
It is a great question.
Let's focus on us and actually giving us, empowering ourselves to not do this, to not work this way. Let's see what happens.
That's awesome. How did it turn out? Or do you know yet?
Well, no, I'm not gonna know yet. We haven't had, that was Thursday, and I'm trying to reschedule meetings and iron out that calendar, because everything is already scheduled for next week. But we're already looking to, do we really have to have all of us on these meetings? Could we just split it up? Even though we cover different areas, could we handle being there and reporting back to the other people or asking questions of the other people for their domains? I'm like, we don't know until we try.
I love that you had the courage to ask that question. I love that. So I want to note that for everybody listening. That's what I was talking about when I was saying you have to have the courage to choose sacred self-love rather than expecting the energy to change to be higher than your ability and capacity for sacred self-love. So that's an example of that. All right. Now I know you had something else. You said two things. Was there another thing?
I do want to talk about that, the courage to bring that up. And you say that, I'm like, yeah, that is really awesome. Wasn't feeling like it was the courage to bring it up at the time, though.
Okay.
I was feeling like, and I think it was heard in my voice as well, especially Thursday. I hadn't slept well and yada, yada. It was desperation, basically. I didn't have the courage up front to where I should have, and hindsight being 2020. When we take the time to center ourselves, we don't get into that desperation stage that, here is the straw that is going to break that camel's back. Here's the apple that is tipped in the apple cart.
And that is true. I'm glad you were honest with that. And also we have to love ourselves through that, acknowledge it. Like we were saying earlier, it's so important to be honest with ourselves about these things and then love ourselves as we learn to do it better. Right. Yeah.
And I do struggle with that. I struggle with learning myself, loving myself until I learn how to do it better. I still struggle with that today. I look at myself sometimes in the mirror and say, really? I really thought we covered this. We're over this. We've learned this lesson. Apparently not.
Do you know why? Do you explore, and if not, that's something you and I can talk about separately, privately, if you want, but have you come to any realization as to what's going on that your self-love doesn't stay at the high level or get to the high level you want it to be at?
It's the self-care. It's one little slip of self-care because, this person needs this, or, this, if I just finish this one more work thing, then it'll be off my plate and it won't be, heavy on my shoulders. And then it leads to something else. And then little by little, it's like the little water drip on the rock,
Okay.
It's nothing right now. It's just a little water drip.
Right. Now,
but I didn't divert that water.
Right.
I just let it drip. And instead of going, nope, I'm sticking to my self-care. It's 5:30, closing the laptop, not doing this extra amount of work.
Yeah.
It's really my focus shift, to embrace my boundaries, really.
And you know what? Do you think it might also be what we were talking about? I don't know how much of the earlier section you could hear, but the comment is so common with spiritual people. We give verbiage to a boundary of sacred self-love, for example, or peacefulness, or spacious time, whatever. We give verbiage to it, but we want to bliss out and have it be done for us instead of us.
Yep.
It takes courage to be the energy of it instead of trying to enforce it through other people.
Yeah, and I like that phrase right there. It takes courage. And we look at it, at least I do. You know, I say we, and it's common. I think I do the same thing as many other people, but to take ownership, I will do that. I'll be like, wow, well, you know, it's just so easy to just, you know, work a little bit more, you know, but it's the courage to be steadfast and nope, I said I'm going to do this for myself. I'm going to do this for myself.
And I tell you something, I say this to you, Lori, I say to everybody too. That decision creates the most incredible freedom because you are now empowered to be fully and freely yourself more with every decision of sacred self-love. Every time you choose sacred self-love over dishonoring yourself and deprioritizing yourself.
Right.
It's
right,
amazing
right.
how that little choice, one choice by one choice, as I talk about all the time, that conscious choice and conscious living is a conscious choice moment by moment. It's not this big sweeping thing. It becomes that because it gets momentum. But that little drop, like you said, now you're creating the drop. You're the one putting the drop where you want it to go. And it's trickling into a little river that becomes sacred self-love for you.
Right. Instead of chipping away at that rock.
Yes.
And you know, I vision that my rock as like my mental and physical health. Instead of it dripping and chipping away at it, it's diverting to this river of life.
Yes. Ooh, that's so cool.
That I truly want to create for myself. And as I was, you know, frustrated and going through all the technology taints this morning, I mean, it was every single thing. From my laptop not powering up to my headsets not connecting to the phones right, to the phones not wanting to charge on the chargers I've had, in the location I've had them, to not being able to dial in with my phone because, oh, I'll download the app and I'll get in really quick. And then the link wasn't working. And then it said the phone number, the conference ID is invalid. I don't know how many times. So I switched to another phone and I'm sitting there and I'm finally on Facebook wasn't working right, so I went into YouTube and was able to catch up live at that perfect place, you know, right as we were segueing in, and every time I would get a text message, it would freeze. I'm like, okay, silence the text, they're not popping up. And I'm thinking, why did this happen? And then the message. I'm like, because I tend to like multitask, or if this happened right, I probably would have done something else. I would have started like eating behind the scenes and not fully paying attention. And I really needed this message today.
That's really
to be
cool.
100%. You know, and here
Yeah.
I'm thinking, oh, I'm doing a disservice to everybody else because I can't be in and I can't be included in the conversation and blah, you know, kind of getting blah. And I'm like, no, wait, take a breath. Okay, here we go.
And see, you needed,
this is it.
That's cool because instead of focusing on being here for others, you needed to be here just for you.
Yep.
Yeah. And so the universe orchestrated, and there's a part of you that knew that the divine self of you, this is my belief, knew that and was, and you've been asking for that you must have been asking for this, you know, to advance in your life. And so the universe is now supporting it.
Yep. Started with Thursday when I went, oh, nope, this isn't working. I need to concentrate and focus. And that's exactly what I had said to myself. I need to focus.
Okay.
And the universe said, okay, you need to focus. You need this message on Sunday, but bam, here you
go. Very good. Okay. Is there anything else you want to share?
No, I think that's it. I think I'd like to stop there.
That sounds good. Okay, so I'm gonna reframe the conversation we just had, and then we'll have our closing. So what we just shared was Spencer and Lori, and I thank you so much for both of you opening your hearts and sharing, you know, personal experiences, because we learn so much through that from one another, with one another. Experiences in your life where you began down a path of the common way that in humanity that boundaries are misunderstood. If only that person would behave differently, if only this organization would behave differently, if only this would be different in my environment, I could have good energy and feel good. And it's exactly the opposite, because each of us are the creator of our environment by our energy. So we need to start with our energy, which then creates our energy field, which then determines, magnetizes to us in accordance with that. And the degree that we will do that for ourselves is the degree to which we have the courage to choose sacred self-love as our priority. And trusting that when we do, we are in alignment with the divine and we will do good in the world. We don't have to make that the priority. That will be the natural, absolutely natural result of our thoughts and words in alignment with divine love for us, with us, as us, through us. So I hope that helps. I'd love to hear back from anybody about what comes out this week. As you go forward this week, continually have the courage to choose higher and more consistent sacred self-love, knowing that that means the love of the divine for you, with you, through you. Okay, let's see what that does for you. Next week, we're going to come back and our final message on boundaries will be, let me get it right, the conscious living of your boundary. How do you get out in the world and fine tune, like we've been doing in our conversation, examples of it, and it's a 3-step attunement. I'm going to talk about how to be aware, and then align, and then allow. That's next week. So how are you going to be in the world, living consciously, the energy of your boundary, fine-tuning every day, moment by moment. Okay, so let's do our blessing. And Lori, I know you'd like to join in on that. You want to say anything to initiate the blessing?
I do. I would really like to thank every single one of you for the energy that you flow our way, for every little penny of PayPal money and Amazon Smile money and the good wishes and just your intentions of supporting this lifestyle with everything that you do. We are so blessed to have you in our lives and helping us facilitate this wonderful, wonderful way of living. And we will multiply all of these energy flows to us, financial and likes and shares, as abundantly as we are capable of.
Thank you.
Renee, I know you have better words than I.
No, I don't know. That was pretty good. I'm going to put the phone down for a while I say this. I want to just want to, ground in and be very steady and stable with what Lori just said. And I will add my energy as well. And I know Spencer is too. We are so grateful for the energy that flows to us that allows us then to flow back to you in the weekly messages and the ongoing things that happen in between the week, behind the scenes, people reaching out. We thank you, everyone who contributes by your presence. We thank you for your contribution and participation by liking, sharing, commenting. We thank you for your participation in the community and contribution financially when you're able to do that and as you're able. We appreciate every bit of it, every bit of your participation. And we want to hear from you. Always want to hear from you how we can serve you and continue to serve you. This is important to us. Conscious living is how the world will be more at peace and how we will be in alignment, as Jesus taught, being in the world but not of it, having a positive experience in the world with one another without getting lost in the turmoil that comes up between humans. That's what we're doing. We're doing this moment by moment, learning conscious conversation and how to make conscious choices and how to live in alignment with divine presence and power. Thank you for being a part of this. We will see you next week for part 3.